What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Today we have Bitcoin falling to $60,500. We also have the SPY sitting at 543, gapping down just off those all-time highs last week. We also have the Qs gapping down just a bit this morning at 477. Gold is on its way up, as well as the dollar has been putting in a higher price since the beginning of the year. So, is this the end of this bull run? Will we see markets come down and start to crash like we saw with Bitcoin and some of the cryptocurrencies? Well, I don't think so, and I will explain why. Plus, I have some sectors that we should keep an eye on to outperform the markets in the coming months and years, as well as Bitcoin and the altcoins, why they are crashing, and will we see a bottom or are we going lower? So we'll get into all that. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe, and let's get started. All right, guys, it is Monday. I hope you all had a great weekend out there. Um, I've been taking a look at this crypto market as Bitcoin sells off this morning down to 60,500, currently sitting at 61,200, recovering just a bit. So where could the Bitcoin price go? Well, we'll get into all of that, but first I wanted to start off with some data here because I think this is important to keep an eye on. The uh, job reports, the non-fund payrolls um, keep coming in. It looks like that there are more people possibly losing their jobs and looking for work, but I think there's one distinction we need to look at. This is a chart of the jobs in Arizona, and this was from last year. But basically, what this chart was saying is that uh, whenever the jobs estimates come out, they are being revised downwards. And if we take a look at the non-farm payrolls, this is really what I think a lot of people are missing. I think, you know, professional traders understand this, but a lot of investors are probably missing this key right here. These are the non-farm payrolls for 2024. The first one came out in January at 353. That was then revised down to 229. So a difference of 124. And then the second revision was actually up just a bit to 256. And then, but the difference between the first or the initial claims and the third revision was down 97. And you can see that we have negative numbers here for February. March was pretty much on par, and we were revised down again in April. So will we get another revision down here off this 272 we saw in May? Well, it's possible, something to keep an eye on. But what I really found interesting is if we look at the uh, revisions for 2023, and you see how many of these were negative uh, overall for the year 2023. We were negative, so that means that the economy really is kind of stronger than um, what some of these numbers show, and the underlying economy is remaining fairly strong. Uh, we also have the Dow Jones sitting at 15,200. Um, this is the monthly chart of the Dow. And really, if you take a look at this chart, since the peaks in 2021, the Dow has really just been ranging sideways here. And here over the past, call it year and a half, we've been putting in a series of higher lows and higher highs on the Dow. Um, so I think that, the broader economy is a little bit stronger than a lot of people feel like right now. I know that there are a lot of people out there are struggling, um, but I think that you could see the momentum of the uh, underlying currents in the economy continue to be fairly strong. Granted, there's no black swan events, which is always, you know, a possibility, I should say. I don't think that there's anything right now that's really going to cause that. Of course, that's when they usually do happen, but they just really don't happen that often. I mean, we had the one back in 2020, uh, but I mean, previous to that really was the great financial crisis, and then it was the dot-com bubble. So really, something like that generally only happens about once every, maybe say, uh, decade or so. So I don't think we're in any real danger in that regards at the moment. I could see something like, uh, maybe you start to see some of these banks fail. Like a lot of them have been, you know, shuffling around and reaching possibly insolvency. But for the most part, uh, the Fed is aware of this and they will be taking note and trying to accommodate that. So, just something to keep in mind. You also have the mid cap stocks putting in this basing formation over the past couple of years and just starting to really break out here in the last couple of months. So, I do think you could see the mid caps begin to outperform some of the rest of these other markets. Generally speaking, whenever we do have a recession, a lot of the capital goes into these big cap blue chip stocks, and those typically recover first. Then you have things like the mid caps and then the small caps and risk assets. Generally, that's how these cycles play out. And so I think that's something important to keep in mind going forward for the rest of this year and into 2025, because I do think you will start to see some of these other markets really start to outperform. Uh, could Nvidia keep going higher? Well, of course, but um, you may start to see some of these big cap stocks start to slow down a little bit, and some of these other stocks really start to catch up. I wanted to go back to the dollar because I think there's something important that we should take a look at here. The dollar sitting at 105.45, dropping off just a little bit this morning. We are overbought on the daily. Um, we have this upsloping trend line since the beginning of the year. And where could the dollar go? Well, if we break above this level right here around 106.30, we may see this go back up and retest this 107 level. But if we lose this trend line and start to move down, well, that would be good for risk on assets such as Bitcoin and crypto and some of the smaller cap stocks. Right now, the dollar is looking fairly strong, but to be honest, I don't know how much higher we really go on the dollar, because eventually they probably are going to have to start um, printing money again and keeping everything afloat. The last thing that the Fed wants is, and the government wants, is the stock market to go down, because there is so much equity in the stock market. and that would just be a really bad look going into a election year. Um, if we look here on the weekly chart of the dollar, the RSI here looks like the weekly is moving down, and it looks like we're about to cross here to the downside. So you could see the dollar come down here over the next couple of weeks, which would be good for the stock market, including risk on assets. Um, let's go back to the SPY. Just take a look here. We do have this gap fill around 537. I would suspect that does get filled at some point. Um, and you could see a bigger pullback here on the stock market. It's nothing unusual to see these pullbacks of around 3.3 to 5%. Let's see if we can get this measurement tool just to work here. So 5% would put us right back down around into this level here in this box around this 525 to 520 level on the SPY. I think that is a real possibility here um, in the short term, possibly over the next couple of weeks. And it would be very similar for the Qs as well to come back down and retest some of these areas. That would be good for the stock market. It would be healthy to see a reset and just allow things to cool off a little bit because these markets really have been heated lately. We will get more back into the Bitcoin price, but first I want to show you a couple other markets that may outperform in the coming months and years. And some of those markets are the emerging markets. We have the HSI setting at 18,144 today. We have this large basing formation that was put in here over the past several months. And then we saw that explosion to the upside as we started mentioning back here earlier this year when we broke out of this downwards sloping channel. So some of these other emerging markets are starting to look pretty good for long-term investors. You also have emerging markets such as Argentina. This is a monthly chart. This is looking a bit overextended currently, but nevertheless, you can see the run up that is had here over the past couple of years. So some investors are looking to those markets to get extra gains and outstanding performance in their portfolio. If you're interested in buying stocks, ETFs, crypto, or gold, you can do so over on Robinhood. And right now they are offering up to a 1% boost, as well as they offer 8 times the national savings rate. And they allow you to begin building your portfolio with just as little as $1. You can buy things such as stocks, options, ETFs, and trade commission free. If you're interested, there is a link down below in the description, and they allow you to buy crypto such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge, and many more. All right, guys, let's get into Bitcoin and crypto and discuss what is going on with that. So we'll start out here with Bitcoin setting at $61,200. This is really coming down into a great little zone here. If you actually took a fib here, you could see that this is coming into like a 618, which is generally the golden pocket on these pullbacks. The sell-off has just been kind of slowly bleeding off, just sliding downwards the last couple of weeks, and we finally got a big drop last night, and that's typically how these things happen. They get that one last wick down just to flush out all the weak hands before sending price higher. Um, Really, we need to get back above this $63,000 level to start with and break this downward sloping trend line. If we could break above that and retest, well, it looks like that Bitcoin could start to move higher. And really, the next level of resistance would be right around that $67,000 level. If you could get through there, you're probably going to go back up and retest these all-time highs. So that is a real possibility. I definitely think you will see that sometime here in the coming months. Um, the key level to the bottom side is right around this $60,000 level. You don't want to see that lost for Bitcoin. Otherwise, you might be going lower. Some of those other levels down lower is around that mid $50,000 range between uh, 56 and 58 would be the first place I would look to see some support for Bitcoin. Um, and then the next lower level, you have a little bit of maybe support here around the $55,000 level just because you have this longer uh, upwards sloping trend for Bitcoin. Um, but then you have that $50,000 to $52,000 level. If it came back there, I think that would be an absolutely great entry if it came down that low. I don't think that we're necessarily going to see it fall that low, but it does look like we're shaping up for some volatility coming up very soon and some quite aggressive price moves for Bitcoin. So that is something to keep an eye on. Really as a trader, you want to let the price action determine uh, what moves you make. But as a long-term investor, I wouldn't be worried here too much. I think that Bitcoin's price will be much higher in the coming years. So I wouldn't have any worries whatsoever as a long-term investor. And let's just take a look at this post posted by Vivek out here on X, and he shows what happened in these previous Bitcoin cycles. And so as you can see here, we are entering that um, third year, which is known as crypto summer, where you typically see just some sideways chop, and then you start to see those prices really move higher, like we've seen in these previous bull run cycles, right before you really start to go parabolic into that final blow off top phase in the final year. So a lot of people are expecting that to happen in 2025. I think that is probably most likely. Um, Although I don't know that we necessarily see it at the end of 2025. I do think there's a possibility it may happen in the beginning of 2025. I think that you will really see Bitcoin's price start to rise going into the back half of this year and into the fall of 2024. I think that's where things will start to get really exciting, and you could see some Bitcoin go up towards those $100,000 levels. Um, Ethereum is sitting at 33.25, also wicking down. I mentioned this here whenever we saw this 20% candle uh, several weeks ago now, that if we did pull back to around this $32,000 level, I thought that would be a great entry for Ethereum. Ethereum's been showing more strength than Bitcoin here recently, and that's mainly due to the potential for the spot ETF approvals for Ethereum that are supposed to be just around the corner, possibly uh, available to start trading on July 2nd. We have the RSIs at the bottom side on the daily. We also have this upwards sloping trend line, which will act as support. And then the bottom side of that range, right around $3,000, would be support as well. And if you take a look at a lot of these cryptos, um, you'll see that we are really kind of at the bottom side on this RSI on the daily time frames, and the weeklies are coming down for Bitcoin and Ethereum and look like they could possibly bottom out here in the next week or two. So I think you're going to see a lot of these cryptos potentially start to take off despite the beating some of these coins have had. Um, they did start to show a lot of strength here recently up until the last couple of weeks. And so I think you're going to see a lot of these altcoins begin to outperform Bitcoin potentially here in the coming weeks and months. We have the total three market cap losing our trend line, coming back down to this first box we originally had for the total three, and that right now is acting as support. Um, you may see this come back down a bit lower and find support here around this mid-level for the total three, but again, the RSIs are at the bottom side and look like they are about to tick up. So we may be getting very close to a bottom here for Bitcoin and crypto. You have Solana sitting at $129 and this line right here acting as support. Again, we did lose that uh, trend line, and this is the weekly chart. Again, you can see the RSI is right at the bottom side. If we go to the daily chart for Solana, well, you can see the daily RSI is right at the bottom as well. So it looks like some of these cryptos are really shaping up for a bounce here in the short term. Um, Long term, definitely still bullish on a lot of these coins. Another one is Polkadot. Again, right at the bottom side on the daily. We had this basing formation that we broke out of here back in October. And so if you look at these RSIs, you see here, well, once we get that cross on the daily, you see that explosive move to the upside. And so we're back down here at levels that we haven't seen really since October, uh, since last year. And I'm sorry, this is the weekly chart. So whenever you're in doubt, zoom out, take a look at these longer term trends. That's what I meant to point out here is we have the weeklies down here, and that's where you've seen that big run up. But again, we had this sideways area of accumulation. We broke out of that, reached our first take profit zones, and then we've seen this pullback. And really, if you take a look at this and pull a fib here, you'll probably see this coming right down into something like a 618 or that golden pocket. And that's typically where you see uh, these things really start to take off. So you could see a lot of these coins start to move soon. Another chart we have is Cardano, ADA, ADA, uh, and it is showing something kind of similar to what we saw on Polkadot, but this one just really hasn't performed near as well as a lot of the other cryptos. Some of these more long-term crypto guys are saying that some of these previous altcoins may be dead or just aren't going to perform as well as they once did, and that's a real possibility, something to keep in mind. But again, we're right here towards the bottom side. We've got this downward sloping trend line. If we go to the daily on this, you can see we just put in a little golden cross here for the daily, and we've got this downwards sloping trend line. If we can get above that and retest that and see if that holds, well, you could see something like Cardano go from this 38-cent level back up to around $1 here, possibly in the coming months. I think that's a real possibility. I mean, I highly doubt that you're going to see this thing just completely drop off here. It's a possibility, it's something to keep in mind. But if you look at where this came from, I definitely think you're going to see a lot of these coins come back up and at least potentially retest some of these previous all-time highs as this bull market continues. Overall, we are still in a bull market, so keep that in mind. And until something changes, we have no reason to worry about um, a lot of these different stocks and sectors and cryptos really, you know, selling off. You also have Dogecoin setting at 11 cents, 0.119. Um, Also, you have this upwards sloping trend line. And I saw this article here this morning. It says Doge skyrockets 180% in critical metric. And really, what they were talking about is some of these volumes. That is something to keep a look at. That's something I'm noticing here on the Bitcoin chart as well. You have these volumes decreasing, and every time you see these volumes decreasing, like we saw back here in this last pullback before moving higher to those all-time highs, you saw the volume drop off, and then you saw that explosion in volume and that movement to the upside. And if you look here, what's currently going on, volumes are just really falling off. A lot of people aren't paying attention to crypto. There is two types of um, sell-offs that you see, or capitulations as they call it. Sometimes it's a price action capitulation. Other times, a lot of people just get bored and move on to other things. So that is something to keep in mind. You know, be greedy when others are fearful. Um, if you are in crypto and you've seen a sell off in your portfolio of 10, 20, 30, 50%, don't worry too much, I would say. I don't think that um, this bull run is over yet. I know what it's like to see your portfolio fall, 30, 40, 50%. I saw that back in '08 and '09. I saw that, in 2020. Um, I've been through a lot of those. That's really where you want to have your dry powder set aside, your cash, and be able to buy those dips, because those are the people that will get rewarded. The same thing I did back in 2020, and turned $50,000 into almost $200,000 just buying some average stocks that had been beaten up and oversold. And the opportunity in crypto just seems to happen faster and is much more aggressive. So I would say that, and that's something to keep in mind. You just don't want to go chasing the pumps on a lot of these things. So that is something also to keep in mind if you're trying to trade. If you're interested in buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, uh, Solana, and many more, you can do so with iTrust Capital. I use iTrust Capital. iTrust Capital allows you to roll over a portion or all of your 401k or IRA into iTrust and gain exposure to crypto. They also allow you to buy and sell 24/7 and with low cost and no monthly fee. They also allow you to buy gold and silver. I wanted to mention that and a tax-free Advantage account. If you're interested, there is a link down below. They have over 4,500 plus 5-star reviews on Google, and they have friendly customer service, people you can actually call and talk to. That's what I liked about iTrust. You know, it's not just automated. You can actually call and talk to somebody, which is always nice. All right, guys, don't forget to follow me over on X or Twitter at Mind of Financier. I am Mind of the Financier on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. But over here on X, I post anything I see that has to do with the stock markets, including stocks, commodities, and crypto. Um, and that's the fastest way to find what I am seeing, because that's where I post things. And also, if I do see something that's potentially alarming, I will alert you on that there. Um, but anyway, guys, I hope you all have a great rest of your day and start to your week. Again, it's Monday. I know how that goes. But yeah, anyway, guys, until next time, take care, be legendary, and peace out.